Hello and welcome to Ivory Blush Roses. My name is Lisa. Today we're stitching seam 9 on the CQtober project. Let's see what we're going to stitch today. Have my bowl. We're going to grab one out. There we go. Let's see what it says. Today we're doing straight stitch triads. This is one I have never actually used as a simple seam stitch before. I've only used it as an accessory or embellishment on a seam. So this should be fun. Let's see where we want to do this. Now I'm not sure I want to do a really long seam with this, but let's take a look here. And I think we'll start with a quick lint brush, even though I've had it covered. We still have cat hair. Poor Mushu. He's pretty much been banished from this room, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. I do think I need to buy stock in lint rollers. Okay, we've been kind of working toward this way. Let's turn it and see about working in a different direction here. Where else do we have a seam that might be good? I personally never really thought of using this as a seam treatment by itself until I saw the work of another YouTuber, and she has a wonderful channel called Shannon Makes, and she does everything from sewing to knitting, crochet, renovating a house, whatever she gets up to. But she did a crazy quilt bag that I absolutely love, and she used this on that. And so she's got one set of triads going one way, and then the next goes the other way. And the effect was really wonderful. I think we're going to do that. And I actually really sort of like the idea of doing it on this seam here, because I think if we use the right threads, you'll be able to see it really nicely. Let's look at threads. I think I want 2 colors. And you know what? We might use that beige today. I know some of you are waiting for it. And then I want something that's going to pop off of here. What about that orange for it? This is a size 12. So if I'm going to use this, I think I want the alternating one to also be a size 12. I could always use this dark brown on that side and use something like this gold on the other side, and I like that one too. The thicker threads might show up better. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. That's the story of my life. And the other question is, would I rather have that beige on the brown or on the black background fabric? I think I almost like it better there. So let's take a look at this as a whole, because once I use this, and I'm thinking it's actually looking pretty gray in spots, it means I absolutely have to use it elsewhere on this project. I think that's the way I like it. I'm really torn, folks. What do you think? I have this seam that recedes a little bit because it's mostly dark, and so I think we need something brighter to pull next to it. And is that enough brighter to lift this? Or do we need to go with this? I'm not sure what I want to do here, folks. I really want to use this dark brown somewhere, and this would just be an ideal spot to use it. I think this combination wins. I think the more I look at it, I'm happier with it. We're still going to be looking at this one though. I haven't given up on it yet. All right, let me get this in the hoop and then we'll take a look and get going. I tried something a little new. I took a dryer sheet because they're supposed to be good at removing the static. And my hope was that by wiping over that, it seemed like it pulled off some of the cat hair. And we'll hope that helps. I was thinking about that brown. And as I looked at the rest of the block, I realized there's no other place on this block that I can use that brown where it's going to show up except this seam. So that would mean it would show up only in one spot. So I decided not to do it. But as I got thinking about this one, because I think it shows up and will carry through these beigey grays on this side, what about using this gold on this side? Because the gold or lighter orange, depending on how you want to look at it, is the color that's picking up through the whole thing so far. And I want that little bit of bright to kind of liven this receding seam up. I want to have something near it so that we don't have 2 darker seams in a row that sort of disappear into the background. So that's my thought on that. Let's start with that beigey gray. So here's to all of you who have been anxiously awaiting me to use this beigey gray. When I see it on the brown, it looks beige, and when I put it on here, it looks gray. I think it is going to pull through some of those colors as we go. I do want these to be noticeable. And we're going to do these so the center one is a long one, and the outsides are a little shorter. And so we'll probably miss the one on this side. So I'm about 1/2 inch apart there. I think that will be good. We're going to come straight out. I'm going to go out just a little more than 1/4 inch. I'm probably coming out about 3/8 of an inch there. Right back down to the center. So pretty straightforward. So this is fun to be doing. I've had 3 seams in a row now that are things that I don't do very often, and this is one that, while I do it often, I don't know that I've ever done it as the main seam embellishment. So it's going to hide a little bit in this section right here, but as we get out to this other side, I think it's going to show up great. So this moves along nice and quick. A little crooked on that one, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Caught myself kind of going backwards. It's usually better if you go from the outside into that center. I feel like the stitches are more accurate for the most part. It helps you make sure you come down in that center area. And so you can see I haven't measured any of this. I'm just stitching. I'm just eyeballing my spacing, and so far I feel like it's working out pretty well. The next one would be right here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in at least part of it. I think that's what we're going to do right there. That's good. So let me turn it over. Make a knot. That went pretty quick. All right. Let's turn that back over. And let's get our gold to go the other way. And I guess, we could always come back and do those French knots in between them if we wanted to. So on this one, I'm going to come up halfway in between, and I'm coming up in the black, and so it wraps over this light brown fabric. While I have not stitched this one a lot, like I said, except for embellishments on other seams, when you look at antique crazy quilts, this actually shows up quite frequently, and it's often a stitch that's illustrated in the little stitch booklets that were published at that time. So it's kind of fun to see that we're pulling through something new, and yet that's got a link to the history of crazy quilting. I got that off to this side, so we're going to go over here first. That's why you come up here first. So many of you have asked about my stitch book, and I will have a video coming on that. I have actually filmed it 3 times and have never been quite happy with how it turned out. But I have a new idea, and I do plan on filming that, and my guess is the video will probably come out in early January. That might be the first video of the new year. I don't plan on doing daily videos outside of October, but I do think we're going to try and move to a 2-day-a-week video. So probably Tuesdays and Saturdays is my guess. We're going to pull that out. I don't like this one right here. Should have caught it before I finished it. It's better. I'm happier with that. So this is not taking long. Do we need to add some French knots to it? What do you think? I think that might actually be fun. We could bring in one of our greens. We don't have much green over here. Oh, see, I keep trying to come right back up, but they're in the wrong spot where they just don't turn out as nice. Just get stitching and I don't even think about it. So just about to the end of this. There. I'm pleased with that. Let's turn it over and tie our knot. Right. What do we think here about adding a green here? I know we're not going to be having any green on this seam and probably not on this one because both of these have a lot of green. So I think whatever we add to this should be green. And we've looked at these before on different projects. And they're very similar. This one, the first one I put out here, has actually some brown in it, where this one, while it is variegated, is more solidly green. But this one has more variation from light to dark. I don't know, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Well, let's just put out that cool green. I hate to be stitching everything in that cool green. I think let's go with this, what I keep calling our medium green. So I'm thinking there's 2 things we could do with it. We could do French knots. And we could do a French knot right at the base so that it's actually in the brown. Right in the middle of those. And I think that would be all we need to do. Or we could put a little tiny lazy daisy, but then it competes with those. So I think let's go with the French knot. So we'll just do a simple row of French knots down there, and I think that's going to be all we need to do on that. All right, so I'm going to start up here at the top. And we're not going to do one here because there's too much going on there with the seams coming together. Let's go right here. And again, if we don't like it, we can take it out. So I did 3 wraps. Do we need to do one at the base of the orange as well? I think we do. Let's try it. We can always take it out. After the last stitch and tearing out a whole row of stitches, yeah, I like that. So we're just going to do these little French knots at the base of each one of them, 3 wraps. One, 2, 3, and down. So I'm going to come up a little farther away from this one so I can make the not going the other way, going towards the stitch. They're subtle, but I think that works out really well. Get my thread all twisted. There's that little cat hair. I think it's gotten woven in. I think I must have stitched it in without realizing. I'll have to come back with tweezers to get that out, I think. I think I pulled that one too far over. That's where you've got to watch these pile fabrics again. When you're stitching on the edge of them, make sure you're actually stitching through the fabric and not just through the pile, because it doesn't look that thick there, but it's surprising how far out it comes over the seam. I will say I'm loving stitching French knots with the frame, although I think it's hard to see what I'm doing. I also have had a couple people ask me about the embroidery frame and the hoop I'm using. Now the hoop I'm using is antique. I was given it years and years ago, so I'm guessing the hoop is probably 75 years old. It's about 10.5 inches in diameter. I have not been able to find one that diameter other than on Etsy, but I did link to a 12-inch hoop in the description box below, and it's an Edmonds hoop, so you know it's going to be a good hoop. And then I also linked to the embroidery frame in the description box, so you can take a look at those if you're interested in purchasing one of these. They are all affiliate links, which means I make a few cents usually on each sale if you buy it through that link. And it doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me out. Yeah, I think that green on this one just finished it off. It just adds that subtle little addition that makes it more interesting. Okay, I think we're about done, because I'm not going to put one down here, but I do think I'm going to go back up to the top and add another French knot up there. So let me turn that over. We'll make our knot. Let's do that one last one. So I'm going to put a knot right here, because as you come down here and you look, all of a sudden there's a gap. And even though we don't have the gold stitch on the far side of that because of the other stuff coming in, you can tell that the French knot is missing. There. And then we'll turn it over again. Make another knot. We have finished stitch number 9. Let me take it off of the hoop and we'll take a look at it as a whole. So I'm pretty pleased with how that seam turned out. It's kind of got that simple, fun look to it, very traditional crazy quilt seam. Maybe more so than any of them that we've done so far. I think it was the right choice to bring in that gold rather than the orange. I think it's a nice counterpoint to what's going on around it. And that gold is becoming kind of the foundational color of all of these stitches. So I'm really pleased with how that's going to go. And I'm guessing that as we get to like this long seam here, we're going to be pulling in that burgundy color. So we're going to have a lot of burgundy in here, and we're going to be looking at those brighter colors on some of these darker patches. That's fun. I'm pleased with it. Let me know what you think. And I'm really glad we didn't have to tear out much today. Thanks for watching. Happy stitching. I will see you in the next video.